Good morning, everyone. My name is Christopher Hawkins. I'm really excited that you're joining us. And I'm a media MI at Bethany Global University. Today, we're going to do a junior interview with Brandon Smoot, who is in Slovenia. I'm really excited about this, and we're going to be talking about the culture and about what ministry he's doing and different things like that. So be sure to leave a comment below, and we'll get to that as well. But for right now, I'm going to add him.
Okay.
There you go.
Cool.
Nice. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm excited about this. I didn't realize you did media too. So you've been doing these before, right?
Well, yeah, I was the original media team, me and the OG gang back in 2017.
That's awesome. I'm enjoying it. Oh, I'm glad you got to. So why don't we start off with where you're from? Were you on internship, and why did you choose to come to go there?
I've lived in a lot of states, but primarily Texas is kind of where I come from. It's where all my extended family is. Um, and I'm in Slovenia right now. I chose to come here based off a lot of reasons. I really knew some of the people that had gone and came back, and they highly recommended to me just some of the ministry they did there, especially the aspect involving like media and such. And then also my wife, she really wanted to come here because she has an experience in marketing and graphic design, and both of those two things are a lot of what we do here in Slovenia. So
Nice. So it sounded like the ministry you're doing is mostly media. Can you talk about that? What ministry you're doing right now?
yeah, so between I kind of have two main things. I'm involved with the worship team, and then I do the media, or parts of it. I'm not the only one. For me, that looks like pretty much any job they want done with a camera. And so a lot of times that's recording worship or a sermon, which we've been doing a lot of because we've been on lockdown since arriving and have not had an in-person service. So lots of recording opportunities there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've also done a couple of other smaller projects. Like I worked on some testimonies a while back that were supposed to be an encouragement to the rest of the congregation.
Wow.
And I'm currently working on it's called Christianity 101. It's the church here. They kind of have a program that is meant for Christians or new believers to go through right before being baptized. So me and primarily one other intern, Lauren Witherspoon, are kind of going at that. And so it'll be a lot of videos that the new congregants will go through, watch. They'll have like a little study paper, and then at the end of the course, they get baptized.
That's awesome. That's really cool part of. Has anyone gone
Yeah.
through still in the, are you still creating it? It's still in that stage?
Yeah, we just got it assigned to us maybe a week
Oh,
or two ago.
yeah.
So they have the course already. We're just slightly revising the format and then turning it into more of a video process. So currently it's just on paper. And
Right.
so people have done it before with the church. We're just trying to make it more user friendly.
Okay, that makes sense. That's awesome. What do you find exciting and challenging about ministry?
Um, Exciting. I love the filming aspect of it. My favorite part is probably like setting up, doing the props, um, getting the lighting just right. I think the church has gotten two new lights since I arrived here, and I always tell them, I'm like, you don't, any lights are great, but the more the better. So that's been fun getting to do those little projects. Um, Challenging, I would say for me personally, I work really well with like very strict structure. Like
Mhm.
you do this now by this time, and I'll do it. They're very relaxed here, though.
Mhm.
uh, our site leader kind of just throws all of his ideas that he wants to get done on like a board on like online, and then we just kind of do them whenever.
Oh, nice.
And I think it's very challenging for me to actually get stuff done if I don't feel the pressure to do it as much.
Mm-hmm.
When it just feels very easygoing, which my site leaders are. I don't I don't have as much of a drive to get it done. So over the last few months, I've definitely been working on that, and it's a good skill that I've had to learn to use.
That's awesome. That is a really good skill. That's terrific. You mentioned that the culture is slower paced. Is there something difficult about the culture or unique about it that you experienced when you first came that you've been working through?
um, I would say as far as the slow paced culture, that's a lot at our specific church.
Oh, okay.
Outside of the church, I don't know if I would say the Slovenes are slower. The thing I would say about Slovenes is they're very more introverted, kind of on average. Like I think they think of your most extroverted friend.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they think of all Americans. So like they are just generally more closed off,
Right.
and they don't want to talk to you unless they know you or they have a reason to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the cool thing though is like if you get to know them, especially like the Christians at the church that we work with a lot,
Mm-hmm.
um, they're just awesome people. They're super kind. They're hospitable, and yeah, it's been really cool.
That's awesome. So it sounds like friendship building looks a little different than it would look here, right? Um,
Yeah.
what does it look like then to make friends there and to really impact people?
I think it takes more time to build a friendship here, um, and that's for Slovenes primarily.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually made quite a few international friends. I have a friend here who's from Canada, one from France, because there's a lot of people that come to the church for international reasons. But as far as like making friends with Slovenes, um, it just takes more time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like in America, you like think like campus preview weekend or arrival date. I already had like two or three best friends
Right.
like first day.
Mm-hmm.
Like that wouldn't happen with Slovenes. Like they take like at least a couple weeks, a month of like intentional like friendship building.
Mm-hmm.
Um and also like I feel like sometimes they need a reason to be friends with you. At least from what I found, like they don't see a point in just hanging out sometimes.
Right.
Um, and sometimes that can just be because they know we're here on kind of a limited timeline, like we're going to be leaving. And so to them, it's just kind of logical that like you're going to leave.
Yeah.
I value the time I invest in people. I don't know how much I want to invest in you,
Yeah. Of
which I respect that. So
course. Well, that's great. So what does also language learning, excuse me, look like for you?
ah, language is fun. It's a challenge for sure. We spent the first 3 months in intensive language learning. Um, I think one of the harder parts is they have really weird grammar. Um, they have, like, for example, we actually listened to a radio show that was kind of about becoming Slovene. It was the radio show by an American. And one of the things he points out is that in America, if you want to ask a friend, have they had lunch yet? That's it. You just ask them, have they had lunch yet? But in Slovenia, that same sentence, depending on who you're talking to, who you are, how many of them are, what situation you're in, you can say that same sentence like 12 different ways.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so it matters like male, female, quantity, and then Slovenia is extra special because they have duo,
Mm.
um, and so that it's like in America we have like I or him and she, and then we have like they and we, which is like anything more than one. Whereas we have yas, which is like I or on, ona, him, her. But then they also have like sva, which is like, and my language teacher might kill me. It's like sva or sta, but that has to do with like them two, us two. And then they have like yeah, yeah, smo, yo, which is like they, and we, which is three or more. And so, and that's with almost every verb. And
Oh
so,
my. What
and
does
so
it
that's fun.
what does it sound like? Can you say something? For-
Yeah. One of my first sentences, which I was very proud of, was "Alla koto bim dva perodijnik, prosim," which is, "Can I get 2 tomatoes, please?"
Have you used that a lot?
um, Not specifically with tomatoes, but I use "Alla koto bim" plenty anytime I go somewhere.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. Do you use do you have to speak that a lot in ministry, or does anyone speak English?
As far as like in ministry at the church,
Mm.
it's almost all English.
Oh, okay.
Which on one hand is really nice.
Right.
It just makes getting to know people easier and there's less of a boundary. But on the other hand, I feel like we have less of a reason to learn the language and it's a lot harder to get that practice in.
Right.
Um, like the example I gave, I actually used that at the fresh produce market in the center. And the reason I like going there is because it's one of the only places I get practice. Because some of them don't speak very good English, whereas the majority of Slovenes do. And so, especially in the church. And so, it can almost be too easy in the sense that you don't learn much language because you don't need to. Like I could live here indefinitely without knowing a lick of Slovene. Not that I'd want to, but it is something you can do because of how much English they know.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. Also, you're taking classes online. How do you feel like that's helped you change? How do you feel like that's been doing classes online as well as ministry? Is there a class that you have found particularly in culture and where you are?
I think last semester we had a course in ethnography
Mm,
and like culture and whatnot, and that was probably had some of the bigger impacts on me.
mhm,
One specific chapter actually made a huge difference because here in Slovenia, people are more direct, um, and there are some people we know that, like personally in the church, that their directness almost comes across mean. Like
right.
it sounds offensive to us, and it's like, couldn't you have been nicer about that?
Hmm.
Um, and that was something that we early on really had to work through. And one of the chapters I read in my book during that course was how the Japanese culture, how they work and how like their idea of not saying no, they don't say no in Japanese culture, and like they have like 15 different ways of like kindly saying I probably won't do that.
Hmm.
And I remember reading that. I was just like, that's ridiculous. Come on, like grow up and just say no.
Yeah.
And then I thought of my own culture. I'm like, oh, maybe they think that about us. And so it definitely it's kind of put that filter in my head before I automatically get offended by somebody. Just think, okay, was that just a cultural barrier or are they actually being rude? Because sometimes they are.
Right. No, that's really good to know. That's something really interesting. Neat. So also, with COVID affecting your internship experience, how does that look as far as friendships, ministry, and time with your team? Does that affect anything?
Yeah, it has quite a bit, I think. We have not met probably 90% of the congregation at our church that we work at. Um, I know that most of the interns got here and they actually went to one church service before everything closed down. Me and my wife actually came a little late to the country, and actually 2 days after being out of quarantine, they shut the country down.
Oh wow.
And they have not opened up since.
Hmm.
They've opened up some things, um, but church services and gatherings of more than 6 to 10 people have never been allowed. And that does make it really hard because, we're serving at this church and we're working alongside them, and yet we don't even know the people.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of challenging. It's kind of sad sometimes. Like we actually got to, which was good. We got to go give out little Easter baskets full of random things to the church members
Mhm.
because we found out the country was going into even stricter lockdown for Easter
Mhm.
because they didn't want people going around spreading the virus anymore. And so, like, last minute, we decided to give out these little baskets before they shut down. And we got to go to each member's house and hand deliver these. And this was the first time we've met a lot of these people. And we had this one elderly lady that she asked us, she's like, "Oh, how nice. How long have you been here?" And we're like, 7 months. And she's
Oh,
like, at my church? And we're like, "Yep, we've been helping run everything." And she's like, "Well, I wish I could have met you sooner."
oh,
And that's kind of the sentiment we have in a lot of areas. It's like there's just so many people we want to meet and just can't.
yeah, that makes sense. That is too bad. Have you got to meet people, like, are you able to walk around and meet people that way, or is that?
You can interact with people. I've met a couple people just from walking around. But part of that's not so much the COVID. That's just the culture. If you're
Right.
just walking around, they don't want to sit and have a lengthy conversation with you for no reason.
Oh, they
So
don't want.
yeah, like not. I haven't personally made any connections just out in public. I'm
Oh,
also not like a huge like extrovert when it comes to meeting strangers, so maybe that's on me.
no, that's okay. I was gonna ask, what's your favorite food there, and then what's your least favorite food?
Well, do you want to know specifically like Slovene food or just in general?
Slovene food would be great.
Okay. Um, they have it's this. I don't know what it's called, but it's like a Balkan sausage,
Ooh,
and it comes with this like condiment, which is kind of like it looks like ketchup, but it's peppers, and it's not quite a hot sauce because it's not super spicy, but it's like a pepper ketchup with these like Balkan sausages. And I don't think it's specifically Slovenian actually,
mm,
but it's definitely I've never seen it in America, and it's pretty good.
that's awesome. Do you get it at the stores, or is it a food, or?
You can get the sausages themselves at the stores and grill them yourself, or there's lots of little restaurants that
Oh,
you can
nice.
get it from.
Oh, that's cool. That's good. And what's your least favorite food?
Um,
I guess if you had to choose one.
I think probably uh, it's one of the only things I've had to spit out. It was poppy seed potitsa, which is potitsa is actually a very traditional. It's one of like their most traditional kind of desserts or like breads they make. It's
Yep.
like a it looks like a loaf of bread with like a swirl in the middle,
Hmm.
and it's deceiving because it looks like kind of like a cinnamon like bread loaf, and it
Right.
looks super good, but generally it's like poppy seed or walnut, and the poppy seed one I've got it twice. One time it was homemade, which it was better, but they just put so much poppy seed in it. It's so bitter. And then the other one was store bought, and it just nothing
No.
good about it.
Oh, oh, bummer. It
I
sounds.
keep telling my Slovene friends though that I'm gonna make a version of their potitsa, but just put cinnamon and sugar. Like you should put
You
it.
should. Yeah, you should add it.
They tell me I can do that, but they won't call it potitsa.
Maybe they'd like it. Would be awesome.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like your ministry now then is preparing you for future in just the things you've been learning and things like that?
I think cross culturally, period, whether you're in a ministry situation or not, is giving you're learning tools to cope with stresses and unexpected circumstances in general.
Mhm.
And then as far as ministry goes, learning to work with people with very different ideology than you sometimes and a very different culture, but still having that same goal of having the word preached and known by the people, like that bond exceeds any disagreements you may have
Right.
with the church you may be working with, and you learn to work around those challenges and make it happen. And so that's been something that will definitely help me wherever I go, even if I'm back in the States,
Yeah.
because different cultures there too.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really, really cool to hear. So for everyone that's watching, if you guys want to leave a comment, we're just about done, but I'm gonna ask a couple more questions. If you guys want to leave a comment or something, we will be sure to get to that. Um, So one or two more questions. Have you had any awkward experiences with culture or with people that you'd want to share?
Yes, I actually have two. One happened like the very first day I got out of quarantine, and one of them happened 2 days ago. The first one was this was before we learned almost anything. We were literally walking from our quarantine house to the church for the first time, and there was an elderly lady on the opposite side of the street walking past, and I kind of waved at her and just smiled, and she just kind of like glared at me and just avoided me and went the opposite direction. And I'm just like, what the heck? Like, what did I do? And then it was only later that I found out, like, the whole they don't want to talk to strangers. If you're waving at them and they don't know you, they're really confused and they want to know what you want from them. And so that was kind of funny.
Oh, great. Have you
The
got
second one, it's I don't have an explanation for it exactly, but me and my wife were coming back from somewhere, and we were about to cross the street at a crosswalk, and when we stopped at the light, there was a lady standing next to us. Now, it's strict lockdown right now, like I said, and like everyone's wearing masks outside. You're supposed to stay, 2 meters away from anyone you don't live with. Well, we stand next to this crosswalk, and there's a lady. I thought we were 2 meters away, but she like turns and sees us and like freaks out and like backs up from us.
Oh no.
And she starts yelling in Slovene, and like I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to listen to what she's saying, but I'm not catching really much. And she just keeps backing up. Like she gets like 20 feet away from me, and she's still yelling. And um, and then I finally got out, oprostite, govorim angleško, and she's like, oh, and she goes, and then she starts shouting in English, but it's so mumbled I can't tell what she's saying. All I heard was something about children, something about protection, and that was about it. But then what made it really weird was she pulled these like medical scissors out of her pocket and so was like showing me.
Whoa.
And like as she was yelling, and I'm just like, what is going on? And she also had one arm. It's not applicable to the situation. I don't think that just kind of added to the uniqueness of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like the light turned green during all of this, and we crossed the street, and she's like yelling at us as we're crossing the street. And me and my wife laughed, and we're just like, do you know what happened? No, I don't know what happened.
That's what it was about.
I still don't. Our best guess, which still does not explain the scissors at all, was that she wanted to back away from us because she thought we were too close. That made sense. Mm-hmm. And then because I was trying to understand what she was saying, but because I was like looking at her without actually responding, she might have thought I was glaring at her like a crazy person, and she was trying to defend herself further.
Oh, okay.
That's the only reason she kept talking. And then I think she had like extra masks with her, so maybe she was just worried. My wife thinks that she was shouting statistics about COVID. I'm not sure. Again, none of it explains the medical scissors. So it was just very interesting situation to be in.
Very interesting. Great.
Yeah.
So right before we wrap, Bearded at Troy says, what is a regular day looking like for you now on Internship?
Hey Troyer, by the way, love you, brother. Today, well, because of the strict lockdown that's been going on since April 1st, average day doesn't look like much. Generally, we stay home, cook food. A lot of what we work on for the church we can do from home on our computers. And then when we go shopping, like once or twice a week, we generally take the bus, go to the store. Never go to the store at 3 o'clock. It's the most crowded. Like in America, it's like 5. Here, it's 3 o'clock. Just don't go. On a day when it's not lockdown or less restrictions, we will generally go to the church in the morning. There might be something going on. Like on Mondays, we have prayer and worship, which that's not the whole congregation, just a small group of people. And then sometimes we have meetings. Generally, after that, we will do either something by ourselves for lunch, or maybe we'll eat with a team, depending on what the day is. We have team time once a week. Plus, we always get together for random stuff.
Nice.
Generally, we like to go for walks if we have some free time. We have a really beautiful park, like literally across the street from us. Like it's like Central Park in New York, but the Slovene version, because
Oh,
it's like right near the center, but it's like also it's really weird. So there's like this big hill that kind of like cuts into the city,
mm.
and so the park is like on the foothill of it, and then you can actually go up into the hill, which is all forested. And at the top of the hill, there's a little gostilna, which is like a cafe or restaurant next to this really old church. And so it's just breathtaking. Even though I've gone up that hill like 20, 50 times, it's still I love to go. And so anytime we have free time, we go for a walk up there.
Oh, that's
Uh,
great.
Other than that, yeah, it's an average day, I guess.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I think that's about all the time we have. We don't have any more comments, but so much, Brandon, for being willing to share. Really enjoyed
Yeah,
that. You had some great,
absolutely.
yeah, thank you. That would be great. Thank you so much for joining, everyone, also. And we'll be doing these weekly if you'd like to join, and we'll be posting them on Instagram. So, yeah, thank you again, Brandon.
Cool.
Your ministry.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Thanks, Christopher.
thank you. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye. So that was Brandon Smoot. He is in Slovenia right now doing internship with Bethany Global University. And we'll be posting this on Instagram. If you want to hear it again, we'll be doing these about weekly with other interns. But thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.